When the WWF signed Rocky Maivia in 1996, they had big plans in store for the Blue Chipper. Rocky showed great potential in-ring, but as a character, he came at the wrong time. The fans didn't accept him for being the smiley guy that wins and is just happy, so something had to change. Enter The Rock. The Rock was a very bitter individual who felt that the fans were stupid and held resentment over their chanting of stuff such as "Die Rocky Die." The Rock was extremely confident, egotistical, and just plain better than Rocky Maivia. His new character catches on with the fans. They say his catchphrases, cheer him despite being a heel, and it was clear that this man was going to be world champion. The Rock did become a 3-time WWF champion, but it was clear that this was just the beginning. The Rock was positioned as the second biggest wrestler in the company. It was Austin, Rock, and whoever came third was so far down below. His 1999 was building towards a superb 2000, where he was set to take the world by storm. Stone Cold had to undergo neck surgery in November of 1999, so that left the #1 spot open. Rock won the Royal Rumble, main evented WrestleMania, where he was unsuccessful in capturing the title, and this decision is almost confusing, but then you see Backlash did almost 700k buys. So now The Rock was champion. He beat Triple H in this awesome main event, which involved every type of Attitude Era drama, the referee drama, the McMahon's pulling the referee out of the ring, and to top it all off, Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was superb stuff. On the May 1st, 2000 episode of Raw, The Rock addressed his title victory from the previous night. When the new champion came out, the entire crowd was going crazy, and it was some exciting stuff. The Rock said that he's become champion. He mentioned his promise, how he gave his word that he'll win, but he also praised another person for giving their word. Stone Cold Steve Austin. He told the McMahons to do all kinds of things. Shane to know his role, Triple H to shut his mouth, and he was expecting something from there, so he told him to just bring it. And there they were. McMahon said that WWF history would be made tonight. Why? Because The Rock is going to have the shortest reign. He booked him in a title match with Shane, and Triple H was all confused, but the boss explained things. He wanted a steel cage match between the two. Shane's up. Chant intensifies. Vince was looking for one of those cheap SVR wins, and JR sensed something was up. Why would Shane wrestle in a cage match? Like, it just sounds clear as day that there was something that was going to happen. Rock said that tonight won't be the shortest reign, but the longest night for his candy-ass son, Shane. The game didn't understand why this was set up the way it was, because as you guys know, the center of attention is himself. He told him that as long as the title's in the family, but Triple H didn't want to hear. As you guys know, JR was hyping this up like hell. By God, how's The Rock going to go through these insurmountable odds? And Shane out here with a full entourage came out like it's a boxing match. Everything was set up perfectly. The Stooges as the refs, Triple H and Vince on the outside. You know, it was obvious as day that this was positioned for Shane McMahon to win. Even Vince tried to get involved. The Rock was very fast-paced on the attack. Shane did get some shots in, but The Rock was The Rock. They were out here handing them weapons to use on Shane, and even though all this was occurring in front of him, JR still believed something was up. Patterson was out here wearing the stripes and hitting low blows, which JR said was a dream of his, and the man was about to break Shane in half just to get the title off The Rock. But of course, this situation flipped on its head as The Rock had the match won. But the odds are far too much. We want Austin Chant to intensify, but he's not here. And instead of Austin, it was Earl Hebner that came out. He once again screwed over Triple H, and despite the odds against him, The Rock managed to retain the title. Now some exciting stuff. It doesn't matter if the main event doesn't have much action, but if there's that heat and emotion from the crowd, that's enough. As a result of this, The Rock had to team up with Earl Hebner to defend his title against DX. The Great One said that McMahon has failed to realize that he's not losing the title. So basically, this match is a 1-on-3. But The Rock was putting in work. The numbers though slowly got to him, and of course eventually, Earl had to get involved. They were out here ready to beat him up in his hometown, but it didn't end the way they intended it to, and with the help of Chris Jericho, The Rock retained the title. DX attacked afterwards, Hebner took a beating as well, and Triple H even pedigreed him on a chair. Rikishi and the Big Show had enough and they turned things around, but DX were very smart. Then the Dudleys came on. This is when things changed. With the title out of the McMahon-Helmsley vicinity, Triple H devised a plan that would see the Great One's reign come to an end. So Triple H challenged him to an Iron Man match for that title. The Rock of course accepted, but he wasn't around to deal with DX because he was filming The Mummy Returns. Speaking of returns, Shawn Michaels was back. This was his first appearance probably since the Super Kick incident, and being a man of drama, HBK made himself the special referee for the Iron Man match at Judgment Day. In other places, Triple H wanted The Rock to know that this isn't no joke, no catchphrases, no gimmick. Triple H said that this is the one match no one wants to touch. Why? Because they don't have the ability to do it. Triple H said that he had the ability and told The Rock that when Judgment Day is over, one man will walk out of the ring. He'll be the best, the greatest, and the undisputed World Wrestling Federation champion. I love how they built up the matches back then with the World Wrestling Federation moniker. It just sounds so damn big. He's of course referring to himself though. He also threatened Shawn Michaels saying if he doesn't call the match the way it should be, there'll be problems. And there's The Rock. He's back from Morocco, and the king really thought they named the country after him, you know, Morocco. Let's just say that the fans were more than excited to see him. He officially accepted the challenge and said that he's officially gonna kick his candy ass. The Rock realized that Triple H was annoyed at being inferior to him, and he knew that The Rock was better. The champion threw insults towards Shawn Michaels and made mention of the last time he crossed paths with him. He said that an hour isn't too long for The Rock, and he told Triple H that 1 hour isn't long enough. Now, of course, they didn't let him slide. Why? Because The Rock was set to face Chris Benoit in a submission match later that night. As you can see here, this wasn't no skill-based matchmaking. Rock was clearly out of his element, but he was a champion. This was proven to be nothing more than a setup, though, as The Rock had to fight like hell. Things slipped down their head, and Raw ended with chaos. Stacking the deck against The Rock was what the McMahon-Helmsley regime was all about. So they had him face the Dudleys in a Lumberjack tables match only 3 nights before Judgment Day. They also added DQ and countouts to the Iron Man match falls. The Rock still refused to believe that Shawn Michaels was going to officiate the match properly, and also acknowledged that himself and Triple H have done it all. Except the Iron Man match. And about the tables match, you guys know how it ended. DX overpowered Rock and sent him through the table. Okay, about Judgment Day, The Rock let Shawn Michaels know that he better call the match down the middle or else he'll kick his ass. The game, as always, is driven by championship gold. It's his lifeline. It proves that he's the best in the business, and without the title, he essentially loses his sanity. The match is more about Triple H's pursuit of the title than it being The Rock's title match. The game wanted to do this without any of the McMahons around, but as you know, people lie. This match was pretty damn good, and it's hard to pull off Iron Man matches, but they did it here. A match like this in the Attitude Era would have been a struggle, but because of their sheer chemistry and competitive nature, it worked. These guys were spent before the match was even in the final parts, though, because it's an Iron Man match. I mean, what do you expect? Triple H went 2-1 up, and it only get worse to The Rock because he took a pile driver, making it 3-1 now. You guys know what's up. 3-1 is the worst lead you can have. The Rock was desperately trying to quicken the pace, and his strategy was a success. Before you knew it, Triple H had blown the lead. Some of this could have been avoided, but it was no problem because using the chair to disqualify himself led to him taking the lead once again. The Rock was scratching and clawing his way up, but the chair shot did a number on him and gave Triple H another point. So now it was 5-3. HBK finally intervened after Triple H was doing the most, and this led to The Rock going on another sprint. He of course needed some help though, winning a fall by countout. And this is when the McMahons realized The Rock was gaining momentum. He hit the people's elbow to tie things up, and this is when DX got involved. Shawn Michaels attacked the McMahons, and in the ring, The Rock was out there by himself getting jumped when the Undertaker randomly comes out in a motorcycle. No longer the Ministry, no longer the Dead Man, whatever. He was just a plain old guy in a motorcycle, and he was ready to kick ass. He raised hell, the crowd's all in, but for The Rock, this was a crucial problem, because the Undertaker attacked Triple H. He was given the fall, and so Triple H won the title. The Undertaker looked more upset than The Rock upon hearing this, and unlike WrestleMania 14, he didn't need to tape his fist. He was ready to beat up Shawn Michaels. Easily one of the best matches in the Attitude Era, no doubt about it. There was just something crazy about this match. The fact that it's 1 hour and these guys went in there and they overcame the challenge. They knew it was going to be a struggle because, well, it's an Iron Man match. I mean, what do you expect? But they went in there, they did the work, and it's easily one of WWE's best Iron Man matches of all time. Okay, the next night on Raw, The Rock went straight after Vince and gave him a premium level whooping. Bro was getting his ass kicked in a limo too. He followed up with Shane DX, and all that was left was the game. Triple H was very calm about things, and he praised Rock for keeping up for 60 minutes, but said that he was punished on Judgment Day. Unlike him, though, he was rewarded. He could say whatever he wants, but right now, one is standing in the ring as a loser, and the other is standing on the ramp as a winner. All Rock could say to this was, just bring it. The brawl was intense. The Rock had the edge laying the smack it down, but then DX came on and the numbers game came to play. Rock hit the Rock bottom on Vince, but he was overwhelmed, and then the Undertaker came on, DX lined up ready for a fight. It was so damn chaotic, the type of chaos that this era was known for, and he dropped them one by one, and then went back on the bike trying to run them over. In the ring, The Rock managed to turn things around in his favor, and hit the Rock bottom on Triple H through the announce table. His intentions were clear as day. To reclaim the title, he wrongfully lost, and this ending is definitely a top 10 from this era. It just has to be. In an effort to smooth things over, Mr. McMahon tried to talk to The Rock. He tried blaming The Undertaker for him losing the title, and gave him the night off. Rock wanted him to come closer, and boom! He slapped the sense out of him. That's why WWE's booking got weird after 2000. It's because of that slap. The Grey One, of course, couldn't stay away for long, and by the end of the night, he was back clearing house with The Undertaker. As a result of their actions, Mr. McMahon booked The Undertaker to face The Rock. It was a two-bird, one-stone situation for the regime. The former champion wasn't really focused on returning the favor, it was more about reclaiming the title, because winning this match would put him back in contention for the title. Of course, it wasn't all that easy, because Mr. McMahon made this a Lumberjack match. Austin chants intensified, but it was far from here. The thing is, this should have been bad for both men, but they ended up going straight after the Lumberjacks, and all hell was loose. And the heels managed to take control, and these odds were far too much for any man except Kane. He single-handedly saved The Rock and The Undertaker, and with that, he also put himself in WWF Championship contention. The Undertaker was looking at him like, you can't be serious right now. But the McMahon-Helmsley regime wanted to be a bit fair. They gave each of these men the chance to win the title shot, but they had to win handicap matches. The Undertaker won his match, whereas The Rock had to face Edge and Christian. Shane tried his damnedest to screw him over. It was pretty damn close, but The Rock had a lifeline. He was still in the match, and this greatly upset the Boy Wonder. The whole arena was shaking for The Rock, and with that, he managed to become the #1 contender. Then to top it all off, Kane was #1 contender as well. The McMahon-Helmsley regime were running the show like Elon runs Twitter. The Rock was impatient, and instead of waiting until King of the Ring, he wanted his title shot on Raw. He gave Triple H two options: wait until the end of the night where Triple H, is ready, or he could kick his ass now. Kane invited himself to this party, and similar to Rock, he wanted the title shot now. Then The Undertaker came out and said that he's never seen so many assholes gathered in one place. He knew Kane and Rock had their issues with Triple H, but he wanted the title shot, even if it was a fatal 4-way match. Because of all this chaos, Mr. McMahon booked a triple threat match. The winner faces Triple H later on. He's all like, yeah, that's cool when we all know what's up. The Rock later that night won the right to challenge for the title, and this was with the help of Triple H, who blasted The Undertaker with a chair. And Rock was rewarded with a chair shot to the face. As you guys know, this was overbooked like hell. This drama all culminated with The Rock accidentally blasting The Undertaker with a chair, leading to the chokeslam and Triple H retaining that title. DX finally looked good here. Rock felt that he was wronged and wanted anybody from the faction in a match, even Stephanie. He was seeking retribution. Triple H thought that Rock's anger was misguided. He said that he should be looking elsewhere, probably in The Undertaker's direction. So the champion showed him footage from Raw because in the moment, Rock was completely unaware of what had occurred. Bringing up The Undertaker's name only caused him to come out. He tricked the faction and caught them off guard, and The Rock watched on from a distance as DX were jumping all over the place. Once they got a hold of him, The Rock ran in and made the save. Similarly to Raw, The Undertaker dropped Rock with a chair, and the Great One wasn't going to let that slide, easily barging into his locker room. Kane was just standing there like nothing happened, but he ended up saying he'll scramble his brains, so they brawled. Once again, these guys had to be side by side for the main event. This time around, it was The Rock who stood tall, dropping both Kane and The Undertaker with a chair. The Great One knew very well that everyone would be going after him on Raw. The Undertaker, Triple H, that $2 slot, everyone. And for those people, he had 3 words: just bring it. And they brought it. Out of everyone to put a stop to this, though, it was Linda McMahon. She came out and tried to make things good, and McMahon, upon hearing this, was very irritated, feeling she's trying to be the morally positive person. He started trashing her before she booked a 6-man tag for King of the Ring: Kane, The Rock, and The Undertaker against Triple H, Shane, and Vince. Feeling this was a challenge towards his manhood, he accepted and didn't give a damn what kind of match she books. So Triple H was going to defend the title against a mystery opponent tonight. Nobody except Linda knew. McMahon accepted on his behalf, and Triple H was raging. It was unfair in his eyes, and so she added insult to injury, booking Stephanie in a match with Lita. To complete the hat trick, she gave Vince and Shane a tables match against the Dudleys. The regime was slowly burning down, and it was falling rapidly. As for The Rock, Vince booked him in a match with Kane. As expected, the faction interfered, and it turned into yet another all-out brawl, but this time it concluded with Triple H going through the table. DX finally got a hold of things by isolating Kane and The Rock, and The Undertaker meanwhile was arrested. SmackDown also revealed that the 6-man tag team match at King of the Ring was gonna be for that title. Linda added to that, saying whoever from the other side wins the match, they'll win the title. With the pay-per-view on Sunday, the faction put The Rock in a handicap match against TNA. The duo brought him hell. He was spent and worn out, but he had the main eventer badge. I mean, what do you expect? And Triple H was fuming over this turn of events, so McMahon told him to wait until SmackDown. What was his plan? It was a handicap match for the 3 men. The top heels came running down, and this plan turned out to be a failure initially. So the rest of them came out, and at this point, they stood no chance. About the match at King of the Ring, this would have went harder if it was a fatal 4-way. But it wasn't, and for that, it did some harm to the match. It wasn't bad though. Triple H and The Rock did most of the work. They're the ones that spent the most time wrestling, whereas the others were brawling with each other. Of course, for championship gold, this tag match meant everyone was for himself, and that's what Kane showed. But the best part of the match had to be when The Undertaker sent Shane McMahon through the announce table. In the ring, McMahon goes to the people's elbow, but he's caught, and The Rock hits the rock bottom to win that title. The game wasn't pinned, and he lost his cool, and The Undertaker told him that he owes him one after preventing Triple H from winning. Decent stuff, but it's time for The Rock's real title reign. The next night on Raw, The Rock spoke about King of the Ring. He said that pinning Vince means he owns the title and owns the boss himself. He knew that he was going to come out and try to fight, but The Rock didn't give a damn because his era has just begun. A disappointed Mr. McMahon came out and explained deeply his sorrow and pain from last night. His emotions were directed at his wife, and it got to the point where his main focus wasn't the WWF, it was about his wife. I'd prefer not to talk about this genetic jackhammer stuff, but anyways, he wanted to shake The Rock's hand and clear the air. Rock shakes his hand, but he doesn't let him go so easily. He called him an asshole before dropping him with a rock bottom. So now that door's closed, the program between The Rock and the McMahons was so damn exciting. Every week there would be something crazy going on, and the fans were all in. From the DX Express being destroyed by Stone Cold to The Rock jumping all of them and whooping their asses. It really was compelling stuff. The Rock now had to move on to other things. Mick Foley, the new commissioner, congratulated him on this and asked how it feels to be on an elite list, because The Rock was a 5-time WWF champion, and I believe at this point it was only Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan, and Bret Hart who were multi-time champions, I believe. I'm not sure. Just as he speaks, he says it doesn't matter. Mick Foley 1, The Rock 0. He got him to the point where he smiled. How often did The Rock smile in this era? Not much. But with that said, The Rock wanted a number one contender and wanted Foley to make it happen. All of a sudden, Shane McMahon, a limping Shane McMahon, interrupted. He started talking about how he's not a normal person and elaborated on his life story. Shane's up. Chant intensifies and he talks about overcoming that chokeslam from King of the Ring. Shane McMahon's green for power and glory caused him to go off the deep end. He couldn't bear himself to see somebody like Mick Foley in control. So he's going to be the one to choose the number one contender for the title. Foley saw this as Shane saying he wants to be the number one contender himself, and he definitely implied it, but the Boy Wonder claimed otherwise. So Mick Foley made the match tonight. The Rock said that like the forefathers, he can't lie. He said that he was just going to kick Shane's ass. McMahon was doing his best to get away from the match, but Mick Foley went on a scathing description of some of his most violent matches. The Rock refused to show Shane sympathy. He simply returned the favor and was sorry to know that his boot will be shoved sideways in his candy ass. In a last-ditch effort, Shane said that Rock doesn't want to take advantage of him, and if he was 100%, he would take the title from him. He starts talking about how they should be allies, and he started discussing the possibilities. Rock dropped them, and just as the match started, Chris Benoit came out with a steel chair and viciously battered the Great One into oblivion. Shane was pushing away the 23 overall refs, and many officials tried putting a stop to this defenseless beating but failed. But then Mick Foley stormed down the ramp and into the ring. The partnership was clear as day. Shane was going to use Benoit to plateau to the top of the WWF, and this was his moment in storyline. Everything about the McMahons was dysfunctional, and his way was clear. The Rock on this incident wasn't phased. He knew who Chris Benoit was, but said that he was gonna kick his ass all over Fort Lauderdale. Benoit did get something, but right after the match, Shane got involved. This led to Chyna taking the crippler crossface. The Rock comes back in, but Benoit makes a run for it. These two are the most hated guys in the WWF at this point. Shane McMahon finally explained the relationship between himself and Benoit, saying he always respected him, but that increased recently. It's because he's goal-orientated. They showed a clip from last week, and Shane claimed that Rock had been ducking him. Why else would he chase him, Shane, instead of fighting Benoit? Shane even went as far as to call Benoit a friend. Likewise from Benoit. The Rock, though, isn't his friend. He's not friends with cowards that hide behind your woman and those that don't call him the greatest technical wrestler in WWF history. So what was he going to do? He wanted The Rock in a non-title match. If he wins, he challenges for the title at Fully Loaded. The Rock didn't waste time. He came out and said that he had no problem proving Chris Benoit wrong. He threw in a shot towards Shane, calling him a punk son of a bitch, and he accepted. He told him to just bring it. On paper, Chris Benoit was in amazing form. He had the edge, but this was a great one. The match was very competitive, but it was going Rock's way. Then Shane pulled the ref and took off his shirt. He had everyone thinking they're in Montreal, and the winner was Chris Benoit. They're all happy when Earl Hebner reversed the decision. So they tried dealing with it, but all that did was make it worse because The Rock was back up. He was wounded and hurt, but was looking forward. Later that week on SmackDown, The Rock called out Chris Benoit. He said that he's not a great technical wrestler. He's not the Rabid Wolverine, but the biggest chicken. Despite what happened on Raw, he was defending the title at Fully Loaded. Why? Because he made it personal, and The Rock was eager to give him a beating of a lifetime. Then from out of nowhere, Chris Benoit ambushed Rock and locked him in the crossface once again, all while Shane was talking the talk and indicated what's to come at Fully Loaded. With Fully Loaded only a week away, both these men went face to face in a 6-man tag team match. Once again, the numbers got to him and Benoit stood tall, so not only did Rock lose the tag team match, but Benoit had his number. The Great One refused to go down like that, and he discovered him in the locker room, but Edge and Christian jumped him. Rock goes through them and continues a vicious beat down that left him a bloody heap, and to top it all off, The Rock hit the rock bottom on top of the limo. Chris Benoit, of course, was a pit bull, though. By SmackDown, he rebounded. This was orchestrated by Triple H, who was busy with Chris Jericho. This caused The Rock to lose, getting himself disqualified in the tag team main event. He assaulted everyone in sight, dropped Benoit with the rock bottom, and even locked him in the crossface, forcing him to tap out. The Rock was now a crazed man, and this build was awesome. They took a different direction since Benoit was not much of a talker. They just started waffling each other. For The Rock, it was onside. It didn't matter if they were outside, he would go after him. At Fully Loaded, Shane McMahon was feeling like proving himself. He wanted to face The Rock tonight, non-title, and he told him to just bring it. The Rock came out and called him up. And he knew that this was a setup and called for Benoit to come out. Unlike him, the Rabid Wolverine preferred to wait and instead destroyed his belongings. The build was awesome, intense. It's what you want for a world title match. And from the very beginning, The Rock was wrestling with Fury. His Fury almost brought Benoit to the breaking point. The match was very, very heated, and it felt like they were wrestling a blow-off match, but it was their first. Benoit had that pitbull mentality. He was expected aggressive and always on the Rock, but he figured it out and the gray one hit the people's elbow. Shane got involved in the momentum swing in the Rabid Wolverine's favor, and Shane even then had to blast the ref with a chair, and that still didn't work as Rock won the match under controversial circumstances. At least that's what it looked like, because the ref ended up calling for Benoit as the winner by DQ, meaning he's a new champion. Why? Because Mick Foley added a DQ rule before the match because of Rock's aggression. At one point, Rock had grabbed the chair and the ref assumed he was the one that used it on him, but he didn't notice this. The fans knew what's up, but they didn't have power. Well, Mick Foley does. Foley said that the title could change by disqualification, but he didn't see a disqualification. He restarted the match and the Rock was all in. It was bloody, but it was like just bring it, and the match was back on. The Rock laid the smack it down, but Benoit brought out the German suplexes. He locked in the crippler crossface, and the Rock was in a critical condition, and it was real bad, but he managed to reach the rope. A little opening and boom! Rock bottom. The Rock retains the title in a tremendous, competitive, highly dramatic match. They sold you on Chris Benoit, a maniacal athlete who was technically proficient. Rock hadn't faced somebody like him in a long time, and when you look at the match from that time period, it didn't seem obvious that Benoit would lose. Of course, the edge was with The Rock, but it wasn't out of the question to see a new champion. Great program. I thought they did their jobs well. The Rock turned into a bloodthirsty champion who was out for blood. He had enough of the attacks and lost his mind. In turn, this may have seemed like a disadvantage for Benoit. But with the DQ rule, it was the contrary. The Rock had to scratch and claw his way to victory, and it came down to a clutch moment. The next night on Raw, Mick Foley was looking forward. He was proud of Fully Loaded, however, acknowledged the controversial ending to the show. Once Chris Benoit heard this, he came out with a look of anger on his face. He told Foley that he got screwed straight up and called him a fraud, and the Rabid Wolverine was only a moment away from turning things up. He mentioned the referee's decision being final, and Foley said that things changed. Shane probably cracked a smile back then. Things changed. Benoit felt that he proved he's the greatest technical wrestler and demanded a rematch tonight. Foley said that he'll take that under advisement, and he didn't want to hear it. Stephanie McMahon all of a sudden came out. Her appearance was in support of Chris Benoit and Shane McMahon. She didn't want to see the rules placed by her family being taken away, and Foley basically called her an ugly person, so she slapped him. He booked the siblings in a tag team match. As for Chris Benoit, he had to face the Grey One in a tag team match. The Rock laid the smack it down. He dropped everybody in sight. His momentum was about to bring him the victory, but Shane got involved, and this turned out to be an intelligent setup, as Shane McMahon's new partnership gave The Rock a beatdown. As a result of this, Kurt Angle had to go one-on-one with the Grey One. The King of the Ring winner had championship gold in his sights, and he saw this match as a positive because he could finally shut up The Rock. Hell, he even asked him to put the title on the line. After the commercial, the title match was confirmed. The Rock heard Angle's remarks and wanted to prove what's up. This one was very competitive. Angle had an aggressive streak to him, and then to make matters worse, Shane McMahon's entourage was here. The Rock, though, had that fight in him, and the adrenaline kept him in it, and he hit the spine buster. And it was time for the people's elbow. Shane interferes, Rock locks in the sharpshooter, Angle taps, and Benoit attacks. They brawl, Rock brings in a chair, and he drops both of them, getting himself disqualified. Shane's like, I don't want none. Rock drops Benoit the spine buster, and Angle celebrating in the ring like he's champion. At face value, it seemed like The Rock's title reign was going to go through yet another huge hurdle. Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle. But things took a different turn on Raw. At this point, Triple H had some huge problems in his marriage with Stephanie McMahon. She walked in on him teaching Trish Stratus some stuff. Mick Foley, being the commissioner, he booked both a Game and Trish in a tag team match against The Rock and Lita. The Rock only did more to intensify the problems, as I'm sure Stephanie McMahon hints to number 69. Rock's main attention, though, was still at Chris Benoit. He made a complete and utter joke out of him with Kevin Kelly and mocked the Big Show for being tall. As always, Shane McMahon provided the assist to Chris Benoit, putting his name in title contention once again. Kurt Angle, meanwhile, was not only craving the gold, he wanted some. So now the tides had turned. Triple H for 2 weeks had been trying to get on his wife's side. Now she's in the very same predicament. Well, back to The Rock. He said that he couldn't give a damn what Shane McMahon wanted. He wanted Benoit to challenge for the title at SummerSlam. Instead, he gave Chris Benoit his title shot right now. Benoit came out and said that everyone knew he beat Rock at Fully Loaded by himself, only to have the title stripped. He wasn't that mad though, because he was going to become champion tonight. However, Shane wanted a no disqualification match for the title. Shane's up. Chat intensifies, and he tells The Rock that he's going to fall victim like The Undertaker and Chris Jericho. The Rock had no problem with this, saying, no DQ, The Rock's cool, Benoit with that gap in his tooth, never being GQ. He guaranteed to whoop both their candy asses all over New York City. Upon hearing this, Kurt Angle had a bit of a problem. Foley told him that the fans want it, but anyways, Kurt Angle thought SummerSlam should be his chance to win the title. He likened his Olympic victory to the summer and said that this should be his moment. As for Benoit and Rock, these two had a natural chemistry. They brought the best in each other, and The Rock was doing everything he could to keep the title, but the situation was far too overwhelming. Shane was interfering, Benoit was the most aggressive opposition he faced, but Chris Jericho saved him. And with that, The Rock retained the title. Good match. It served an ending to the feud, and it deserved one. Benoit was absolutely outraged at this, and so Mick Foley decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add Chris Jericho into the #1 contenders match with Kurt Angle and Triple H. This obviously didn't go Benoit's way because he's not in the match. About that one, both Angle and Triple H pinned Chris Jericho, leading to confusion. Rock didn't know what's up, and the drama was about to ensue. He laid the smack it down on all of them, even Stephanie, and Raw ended with the #1 contender status left in question. Mick Foley thought long and hard for this decision and decided to make it a triple threat match at SummerSlam. The Rock, upon hearing this, did not give a damn. Later that night, he faced both men in a tag team match. Triple H got so irritated with Kurt Angle that he walked away. Stephanie tried to convince him but was unsuccessful, and in the ring, Kurt Angle took a last ride. The game finally came to the aid of his wife, but took a chokeslam and people's elbow. All this because she wanted to check on Kurt Angle. However, a meeting with Vince McMahon brought these two men together, and The Rock's chances decreased for SummerSlam. At face value, all was good, but then Mick Foley mentioned a match with The Rock for SmackDown, and both these guys started arguing over who gets it. Shane McMahon decided Triple H should get it, and Angle thought it was personal, feeling Shane, doesn't want him to be friends with his sister. Triple H went out there and with the help of Kurt Angle, emerged victorious. On the final Raw before SummerSlam, The Rock addressed the events of SmackDown. He was out here talking about sticking boots and candy asses. The Rock mentioned that they both want the title. They want the biggest $2 piece of rancid meat, Stephanie McMahon as well. The Rock wasn't thinking about SummerSlam though, as he wanted payback. Mick Foley all of a sudden came out and said that tempers like The Rock's could get titles lost. So that's why he wasn't going to book him in a match tonight. Kurt Angle came out and tried to explain things to The Rock, and he said that when Mick Foley tried splitting him and the McMahon family apart, he was testing him. Angle called Triple H a friend and brought him out. The game said that nothing will make him a friend of somebody's faster than when Kurt Angle wrapped a chair around The Rock's head. Triple H was still pressing Rock for a title match, and Foley said that if only his ears were as big as his nose, he would have heard that he gave the night off for The Rock. So he booked them in a tag team match against the Acolytes. Even Shane McMahon was booked in a match against Steve Blackman. To top it all off, Stephanie McMahon was set to face Lita for the Women's Championship, with a special referee being The Rock. As expected, Kurt Angle and Triple H got involved. This only brought back the problems between those two, as Angle accidentally blasted the game. This led to Lita winning the title, and it was an amazing ending. I mean, it's 2000 WWF, what do you expect? Later that week on SmackDown, Stephanie was set to face The Rock in a tag team match. She needed to choose somebody, and she was out here considering Kurt Angle. This did nothing but anger the game. She ended up choosing Kurt Angle as her partner, and this did nothing but bring the relationship between Triple H and Kurt Angle to a point where it couldn't be fixed. Team Extreme were jumping him, and Angle preferred to walk away and kiss Stephanie McMahon. This was despite Triple H carrying Stephanie to the bag and helping him out with his tag team match. It was a very exciting and heated storyline. Rock obviously wasn't the main focus of the story, but it didn't matter. Bro really kissed a married woman. The WWF had an incredible summer, and this storyline played a huge part. Stephanie admitted that Kurt Angle was a good kisser and straight up lied to Triple H about the phone call from Kurt. Too much drama. Triple H, the most dastardly person being played, you don't see that often. At this point, Angle went all out and said that he gave Stephanie more passion than Triple H ever has. These guys were hated, and everyone was going to enjoy watching them hurt each other over a woman nobody likes. Unlike them, The Rock just wanted to steer to victory. These men had an intense pre-match brawling. Their hatred basically broke the announce table, and Triple H didn't even need to hit the pedigree. For Angle, though, he was in a whole other world. He doesn't really remember much from this match. Rock finally came back, but Triple H's main focus was getting a piece of Kurt Angle. Stephanie, despite Triple H's orders, came out to check on Kurt Angle. As for The Rock, he had a fight on his hands, but Stephanie was making things a whole lot easier. Triple H, though, rebounded with a sledgehammer, and The Rock's title was slowly gone. The game saw him holding onto his abdomen after the sledgehammer shot continued on the attack. The Rock had this little opening, and Stephanie, meanwhile, convinced Kurt Angle to come out and help Triple H. She forcefully dragged him out, and this is when he cost him the title. He wanted the title as well. Angle and The Rock had a mini match that saw The Rock with the Edge, and Stephanie was beside herself in all this drama she caused. Rock bottom, but Triple H breaks the fall, and to top it all off, Stephanie brought in the sledgehammer for Triple H, but Angle took it, and this led to her taking a right hand from her husband. Angle hits him with a sledgehammer. The Rock hits the people's elbow to retain the title. This was one of the most dramatic matches in the Attitude Era. It had so much intrigue and twists and turns. Angle getting his ass beat, Stephanie accidentally instigating her own assault, and The Rock trying to steer clear of all this nonsense. And to top it all off, Kurt Angle carried Stephanie to the back. The next night on Raw, Mick Foley felt that The Rock had to go through yet another challenge, Kane. For Kane, it was all about taking the title and representing the people. Of course, the Grey One couldn't give a damn. As expected, Kane was a huge challenger. He took control with ease, and it also helped that Rock was still hurting from SummerSlam. But he turned things around, and if it wasn't for the ref, he would have won it there. Kane rebounds with a chokeslam, but the champion managed to kick out. Rock follows up with a rock bottom, and it still wasn't enough, and then the Undertaker interfered and dropped his opponent. Even then, Kane kicked out. This man was 99 overall, and The Rock had to hit another rock bottom to retain that title. It looked like hell. You felt that The Rock had to dig so damn deep to beat this monster. 3 rock bottoms and a choke slam from The Undertaker. He endured everything and dished it out, but he had to rely on luck. The Undertaker's chokeslam was also a sign that he wanted a title shot, just not from Kane. His number 1 contenders match with Chris Benoit was ruined after Kane interfered, leading to The Rock making the save. So now it was not only Kane and The Undertaker, but Chris Benoit. So Mick Foley booked the number 1 contenders match between Kane and Chris Benoit. This match once again ended in controversy after Kane attacked The Rock, leading to the DQ finish. A Great One dropped Kane with a rock bottom, and the number 1 contender had to be determined at a later time. As for The Rock, he had to team up with The Undertaker to face Edge and Christian for the tag team titles. The Rock was super resilient, but Kane's interference led to the concerto, and the heels retained. The Rock wasn't going to let that slide though. It was an embarrassing defeat, so he interrupted them on SmackDown. The champion admitted that he lost, but said that these two needed help. So what was he going to do about it? He wanted both Edge and Christian in a handicap match. They refused to compete before realizing something. They reek of awesomeness. He said that it didn't matter if that's their new catchphrase and gave them a proper catchphrase. They reek of grade A Kentucky Derby. Edge and Christian wanted to be in the ring at the same time against The Rock, but that wasn't enough. Why? Because Edge wanted the match to be for the WWF Championship. He accepted. The Rock looked into the future and said that he sees a picture of himself whooping their asses all over Louisville. Right before the match, he gave them a beating. This beating was enough to leave Edge on the sidelines, so Christian had to bring in a partner at the request of Commissioner Foley. His partner, Kane. This match was no problem for the duo, but when it came down to it, Christian wanted the WWF's most coveted gold. Then you had Edge interfering, and it's no wonder why The Rock retained the title. Kane was so frustrated over the result that he chokeslammed him through the announce table. Just as Raw began, The Rock was seeking retribution. He wanted Kane. The Rock made a big red mockery out of Kane and called him out. The problem was Chris Benoit wanted to fight. His reasoning for a match was because he's the best wrestler, and if anyone deserves a shot, it's him. Kane wasn't going to let anyone take his title shot, and if you thought that was it, The Undertaker was here. He didn't want anyone to forget about him, and a brawl ensues. Mick Foley guaranteed that there's going to be a number 1 contender by the end of the night, and in the meantime, he booked them in a tag team match. As for the main event, it was too damn chaotic, so Mick Foley made it a fatal 4-way match for Unforgiven. The Rock knew very well that this was a challenge, but similar to every other opponent, he treated them like jokes. Foley had a master plan in place for all this chaos, and Chris Benoit straight up told him that it's gonna suck. What Foley was talking about involved The Undertaker and The Rock. Benoit threw some insults with the fatal 4-way stipulation, feeling he's the better wrestler out of anyone in the match. Kane wanted to prove to people that say he's terrible, ugly, right. But about The Rock, he had to team up with The Undertaker in a tag team tables match. This one didn't end so well for them, and even worse for The Rock, as The Undertaker thought he was attacking him, so he dropped him with a chokeslam through the table. So kicking off Raw, he wanted him to come out and deal with things. Hell, he was even willing to put the title on the line. The Undertaker in anger came out and explained things. He said that when The Rock was a little kid, he was out here winning titles, and he was mostly offended about The Rock calling him out. And liking this to people never learning. He's like, oh, people never learn, despite what happened on SmackDown. SmackDown, he told him not to piss him off, but he did just that, and the Dudleys put him through a table. And The Undertaker told him he may not dress like the devil, but he's still down with them. Mick Foley refused to get in their way and made the match official for tonight. Chris Benoit though wanted a title shot tonight, thinking the main event was just that. He thought it was a title match. Kane followed up and Mick Foley reminded them that it's non-title, and since Benoit wants to fight, he gets to face Kane. For The Rock, it was one of the only times he lost in 2000, as The Undertaker pinned him decisively. Since Kane and Benoit couldn't be away from the title, they started a brawl after the match. Once the dust settled, The Rock caught The Undertaker and hit the rock bottom, and this brawl was nothing compared to SmackDown. Everyone was going after each other. The Undertaker almost ran over The Rock, and Kurt Angle once again kissed Stephanie. For Chris Benoit, he's considered the best wrestler, but being the best also requires you to hold championship gold. Kane wants to prove the haters right and show that he's the most sadistic wrestler in the WWF, but he also wanted to do it with the title on his waist. The Undertaker wants to regain that old glory he had from a year ago. Before the match, The Rock trashed them, and the best part had to be when he said The Undertaker rides on his motorcycle to get a funny feeling. About the match, I wasn't really feeling this one. They did the same finish from Fully Loaded with Chris Benoit winning the title under controversial circumstances, so the match was restarted. It did kick up a notch after that. Benoit was a pure workhorse. Kane and The Undertaker were brawling on the outside, and it was Benoit who was the one that brought the most drama. But through it all, The Rock managed to score the victory. It really felt like the ultimate challenge, but he pulled through. Since Chris Benoit was a crybaby, Commissioner Foley gave him yet another title match for Raw. On this match, The Rock told Benoit that he won absolutely nothing last night. He's not a two-time champion, he's the ultimate punk-ass SOB. He promised that Benoit will hit rock bottom, and the action here is very fast-paced. Within the first few minutes, they were already doing some big stuff like the sharpshooter and Shane's interference. The match itself wasn't going to be better than the previous ones, but there was a lot of drama here. Earl Hebner almost fought Shane, who retaliated by dropping him. The Rock in the ring was laying the smackdown when Shane got involved. Benoit screwed up here. Stephanie came in to check on her brother. Triple H gets bumped into and argues with Benoit before getting involved, and The Rock hits the rock bottom to retain the title. After the match, the game has a stare down with a Grey One before Kurt Angle came in. Stephanie gets involved once again, and at this point, Chris Benoit decided to headbutt her. There was so much drama to come out of this. A little bump from Benoit kickstarted an entire feud with the game, and for Kurt Angle, it seemed like he was seeking the title. This led to a tag team match on SmackDown between the four. The Rock didn't want to team up with his former rival, but told him that all they gotta do is tag each other, and that's it. Other than that, he still dislikes him. The Rock and Triple H worked much better than Angle and Benoit, whose egos clouded their main goal. But the match was far too chaotic for a normal result. Chairs were brought in, The Rock and Triple H were trying to top each other, and Stephanie McMahon's interference brought Kurt Angle the victory. She was still on Kurt Angle's side despite her husband being on The Rock's team. Later that week on Raw, The Rock made fun of Stephanie, calling her Kurt Angle's wife, and belittled Angle's Olympic celebration back in 1996, calling him a crybaby. And then he gave him a title shot for tonight so he could whoop his ass. Kurt Angle did not waste any time. He started going off on his Olympic victory, saying he gave the fans something to live for, and threw insults towards Michael Jordan's way. Why? Because they're in DC. He praised them for being terrible at running the Washington Wizards, and for him, it wasn't like Mike, it was like Kurt. Mick Foley all of a sudden interrupted, and he told Angle that there's somebody that wants him a little bit more. Triple H. The game took offense to The Rock making fun of Angle's Olympic victory, saying it's his job, and Triple H also told the champion that he's keeping the title warm for him since he never beat him one-on-one. Mick Foley ended up booking a #1 contenders match between Angle and the game, but Chris Benoit had a huge problem with this. Kane followed up as well, and he told The Rock that he's his and his time is over. Rikishi randomly came on, and he had some unfinished business with Kane. Mick Foley booked Rikishi and The Rock against Chris Benoit and Kane. As for Angle and the game, winner faces the champion at No Mercy. The Rock told those two to go to a quiet place where all their dreams come true, and he told Kane to search for Benoit. But anyways, these two's hatred of each other led to Benoit costing Kane the match. At the same time, Mick Foley was conducting an investigation into who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin at Survivor Series the previous year. As to the main event, Kurt Angle won the right to challenge The Rock at No Mercy with the help of Chris Benoit. On the other side of things, because Kane was annoying, he got his chance once again for the title. Kane said that The Rock was the man that had everything. He says just bring it, and Kane assured him that he will. He also told him that nothing will save him. As Kane said, he dominated. He looked almost unstoppable. Rock was putting in the work, but at times it was like fighting a wall. Well, somebody did interfere. Kurt Angle. Angle dropped both men with a chair shot, and once they recovered, Kane hit the chokeslam for a 2 count and walked into a rock bottom. All of a sudden, Rikishi came out and attacked Kane, causing the DQ, but the champion didn't want it to end that way, and this led to yet another brawl involving Kane. But yeah, Rock retained. Match is just there. This Rikishi and Rock partnership would be short-lived though, as Mick Foley concluded the investigation into who ran over Stone Cold, and he came to the conclusion that it wasn't The Rock who ran him over. The evidence pointed to him initially, but he was not guilty. It was Rikishi, and The Rock was left visibly disappointed and frustrated with him. And to make matters worse, Rikishi said that he did it for The Rock. The funniest part is this guy said he'll do it again, and he walked out to his Too Cool song like this man didn't commit attempted murder a year earlier. When I thought to myself here, damn, Rock could have used a different challenger for the title, I didn't think they'd give Val Venus a title shot. I don't even remember this, and I was watching WWF 2000 a while ago, because that's what happened on SmackDown. Kurt Angle was a big supporter of Val Venus for this one, and said that if they could find OJ innocent in LA, you could find some fans here that think The Rock was innocent too. Val Venus tried to take advantage of this, but you know what happened. The RTC were an intense challenge for The Rock. Val Venus isolated the Great One and wore him down, but it just wasn't enough. Steven Richards got involved and almost screwed over Venus, who took The Rock bottom. He rebounded with a title shot, and even then, The Rock kicked out. Angle and Stephanie were getting annoyed with things, and in the ring, Stevie Richards takes a rock bottom, and Val Venus takes the people's elbow, and The Rock retains. Kurt Angle attacks after the match, and Stephanie almost took a rock bottom, but Angle makes a save, and he hits the Olympic slam twice. Even Stephanie got some shots in. With that said, I thought that match was enjoyable. It's crazy that 2000 Val Venus had an entertaining main event match with The Rock for the WWF Championship, but it was just that. As for Stephanie, she wanted to pursue a managerial career with Kurt Angle. Why? Because Triple H didn't want her to come out to his matches. Kurt Angle once again got one over The Rock on Raw, but the Great One showed him that he's got to do a whole lot more to win the title. Ahead of No Mercy, The Rock gave his final thoughts on his match with Kurt Angle. It was clear that his thoughts were more with Rikishi, but Rock said that he was now focused on Angle. He said that he's gone through many opponents in the last 2 months. Now, he has to face a guy who endorses milk. The Rock gave a rundown of the match at No Mercy and said that this isn't the Olympics, and he told him to bring his gold medals, Stephanie to bring her dirty panties, and most importantly, to just bring it. Once again, at the end of the night, Kurt Angle scored the win in a match involving The Rock, but it was the Gray One who had the last laugh over Angle. There was a little positive for Kurt Angle, though. Chris Benoit locked the champion in the crossface. Kurt Angle, despite facing The Rock in the biggest match in his WWF career, had enough time for jokes. He interviewed him. Angle made it seem like Rock played a part in running over Stone Cold, and it was a funny-ass interview. Angle acting as the moral compass, talking about how Rock's a mean person. It was really good. So this is what it's come down to. Stephanie McMahon's influence over Kurt Angle had him convinced that this was over before it began. For her, it was about having a career besides managing Triple H. Managing Kurt Angle to the most coveted gold in professional wrestling would give her managerial career a stamp of success and would set her on a road similar to her father. It's why she was so desperate to convince Triple H that this is the right thing for her. It was all about the family. For Kurt Angle, the WWF Championship was the most valuable prize he's never won. It also helped that the match was announced as no disqualification right before it began. Stephanie's influence gave Angle the control, but he was overwhelmed by the onslaught from The Rock. Once they got back in the ring, though, Angle found himself. Stephanie was still adding insult to injury, and a furious Triple H watched down in the back. The no disqualification rule wasn't exactly favoring Kurt Angle. He locked in a sharpshooter and got Angle tapping, but the ref didn't notice. So The Rock started running after Stephanie, giving way to Kurt Angle. Angle was mostly in control here until they went out to the outside. That's of course where it changed. He almost hit The Rock bottom, but Angle blasted him with a title belt. This wasn't enough. Stephanie's interference wasn't really working because even though Angle had these big moments to win it, The Rock kicks out. Superplex from the top, and with that, the match entered the final third, the ending. A beautiful moonsault lands on John Cena, and The Rock begins his comeback. Spinebuster, and Stephanie gets involved once again, so Rock hits the rock bottom on her. He even tried the people's elbow, but Angle made the save, and this is when Triple H interfered. How Triple H even hit the pedigree on The Rock. He takes her away, and in the ring, The Rock kicks out. The champion turned up once again, and the crowd was all in. Then all of a sudden, Rikishi, who got his ass beat, was here. He assaulted Angle before The Rock started laying the smackdown. A low blow stops him for a moment, and Angle goes in and he takes a rock bottom. Two accidents led to Kurt Angle hitting the Angle Slam. 1, 2, 3. New champion. Kurt Angle, after 11 months of debuting, had captured the World Wrestling Federation's most coveted gold. It was an incredible match. Damn. Loved this match. It was one of my favorites from this title reign. Easily. You asked me, hey, what's your favorite Rock title match from this run? I'm probably going to go with this. But yeah, for The Rock, this 4-month title reign had come to an end. And with that, he was going to feud with Rikishi and eventually challenge for the title once again. So what do I think of this title reign? Awesome, amazing. It really showed what The Rock was truly capable of. He was the number one guy. No one was stopping him. He was comfortably the guy. You know, no one was above him. He delivered in promos. He had amazing charisma. Out of this world. We already know The Rock was out of this world in charisma, but we just got to mention it. His look, his clothing was incredible. His matches were even better than they were in 1999. He really turned it up here and would only get better after his return in July of 2001. But here, he was good. Especially if he was facing somebody like Chris Benoit, Triple H, whatever. If he had a good opponent in there, for sure he was going to have a good match. My favorite match is No Mercy. I really loved the drama that unfolded. I loved how, even though it was no disqualification, it had a different vibe compared to the other Attitude Era matches, you know. Because when the match is no disqualification in the Attitude Era, they go in the crowd, they wrestle all around the place. And they did that here, but it felt a bit different. There was just something different about this one. This title reign is easily one of the most memorable, especially from the Attitude Era. It's one of the longest from the Attitude Era as well. So yeah. Alright, what you guys think of The Rock's title reign? Please comment down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the rock bottom on the like button or pass the people's elbow on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.